Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. Before the flood, researchers have found a 200,000-year-old city in Africa. And some people are wondering, is it proof of what the world was like before the Great Flood? The discovery of this ancient city has led to wild speculation that perhaps the world was once ruled by the Annunaki, who were punished and destroyed by the Great Flood. The Annunaki were made famous in 1976 when Zecharia Sitchin published his own personal translation of ancient Sumerian texts, calling them the Earth Chronicles. He interpreted texts found in ancient Sumer as describing an extraterrestrial race named the Annunaki. They landed on our planet and then used human slaves to mine for gold. According to these texts, the Annunaki came from a planet called Nibiru, which is located somewhere beyond Neptune. Zechariah's theories have never taken root in mainstream archaeology. Most modern scientists say the Anunnaki are just deities worshipped by the Sumerians, no different from Babylonian gods or Greek gods. But there are others who believe the Anunnaki were real physical beings, not just ideas. Some say that their mining operation was a huge success in Africa. There may even be evidence of a 200,000-year-old city in Africa that was built by the Anunnaki when they came to Earth. The evidence was discovered by South African explorer Michael Tellinger and a small group of scientists. They came across ancient ruins in the middle of nowhere, near the port of Maputo in Mozambique. The ruins of the stone city are extremely strange, with walls towering over 11 feet tall. And each structure is connected to the others by channels of stone. What's even more bizarre is that these structures don't have doors, meaning they likely weren't designed for humans or animals. However, this is only one piece of the puzzle. It's clear the ruins are only one small section of a much larger complex, one so old, modern scientists don't know who could have possibly built it. But since there's no evidence to the contrary, do you think the Anunnaki could have really constructed this place? Or is that ridiculous? Which side are you on? Let me know in the comments. Number 9. King Arthur's Castle. The legendary castle of King Arthur may have finally been discovered near Huddersfield in England. If it's proven to be true, it will change what we know about early medieval England. Professor Peter Field, a retired scholar, believes the original location of King Arthur's fortress is the Roman fort at Slack, which is located in Yorkshire. Field came out and said the Romans once called the fort Camulodunum, which sounds an awful lot like Camelot. Field went on to say the location of the fortress would have been perfect for Celtic Britons fighting against the Anglo-Saxon invaders. It would have been an excellent stronghold between the free lands of the Britons and the newly controlled realm of the Saxons. The issue is that King Arthur is a fairy tale. At least most historians believe he was nothing but a legend. King Arthur supposedly existed during the Dark Ages around 500 AD, and yet no mention of him came until 1180 in France. For 680 years, there was no mention of any King Arthur or Camelot. But then again, the Dark Ages weren't exactly known for their detailed recordings of history. If the Camulodunum fortress really was the location of the mythical Castle of Camelot, it could mean that King Arthur was a real historical figure. Do you think he was real, or is it all just a myth? Let me know in the comments. And now for number 8. But first, it's shout-out time! I wanted to give a huge thank you to Scott Titonis and Cheryl Oliver for supporting this channel. We really appreciate your feedback. And if you are new here, don't forget to subscribe and join the family. Number 8. The oldest pyramid. In the West Java province in Indonesia, there are some of the most spectacular mountains in the world. Dutch colonists arriving here in the 20th century were amazed by the natural beauty of the jungle. It's here, hidden at the top of a ridge that's shielded by trees, that a mystery has been hiding for thousands of years. Researchers discovered the remnants of what could be the oldest pyramid in the world. The ruins on the Indonesian mountain appear to represent the largest megalithic site in Southeast Asia. But just judging by the sheer scale of the ruins, it could be one of the biggest megalithic sites in the whole world. A team of Indonesian scientists were behind the discovery. They presented their findings at the AGU 2018 fall meeting in Washington, D.C. Impressive, huh? The scientists claim that Gunung Padang, the mountain in West Java, is home to the ruins of a pyramid that's at least 10,000 years old. The structure is so big that scientists haven't even been able to uncover it all. One of the researchers said the structure doesn't just cover the top of the ridge, but seems to wrap around it and slide down its slopes. At one time, this hilltop could have been a magnificent pyramid, but now its foundation is buried under dozens of feet of rock and dirt. This is a rather shocking discovery because it's 100% real and verified. Archaeologists have discovered a huge structure dating back far before the rise of civilization. What's even more fascinating is that there are layers of debris. The most recent layer is 3,500 years old. The second layer is about 8,000 years old, and the third is 10,000 years old. However, there might be ruins at the very bottom that could date back 28,000 years or more. If that turns out to be true, we could finally be dealing with real ruins from a civilization that existed before we thought it was possible. Number 7. The underground city of Tiwanaku. A group of Bolivian archaeologists uncovered a mysterious underground city at the archaeological site of Tiwanaku. The discovery was first reported by the Bolivian Ministry of Cultures and Tourism. Using modern technology, archaeologists were able to identify a pre-Hispanic citadel outside the perimeter of the known archaeological site. Then they used precision cameras and infrared surveys to uncover an underground plaza. They also found what could be the buried platforms of a pyramid. Archaeologists are amazed by what they have here. The underground structures are so immense that excavating them could take up to 50 years. Tiwanaku was one of the most important megalithic sites to the ancient people who lived in Bolivia. Some believe this was the location of a stargate, a portal used by mysterious beings who traveled to and from our planet. The whole landscape is covered in strange and fascinating relics, like Pumapunku, the Pyramid of Acapana, and the Sun Gate. The builders of Tiwanaku, known only as the Tiwanaku Culture, rose to power around 1580 BC. Unfortunately, though, their civilization vanished suddenly about 800 years ago. The new discovery of underground structures is changing everything we know about Tiwanaku. Not only are there all these amazing structures above ground, but now it looks like there is a whole lost world hidden just underneath the surface. Number 6. The Kizilkoyun Necropolis. The Kizilkoyun Necropolis in Turkey was excavated by local archaeologists who found tombs over 2,000 years old. They were a little surprised to see that the rock tombs bear a close resemblance to discoveries made at the ancient site of Göbekli Tepe, which is considered to be the oldest temple in the world. The necropolis was used during the early Roman period, and it contains at least 133 rock tombs. It can be found today on the outskirts of Urfa, what was once known as the city of Edessa. The majority of the necropolis's history is tied up with the Romans. After the people of Edessa declared independence from the Seleucid Empire in 132 BC, they became part of the kingdom of Osroene. However, about a century later, they were overrun by Romans, who used nearby limestone caves as crypts, transforming the landscape into a massive necropolis. But the ancient cemetery appears to be intermingled with much older monuments. Recent archaeological excavations were done in the same area as the oldest statue in Asia, the Balik Ligol, a human-shaped sculpture that was carved around 9,500 BC. It's also considered the oldest life-size statue of a human. This artifact is directly tied to Göbekli Tepe, and so too is the whole area. Researchers are starting to wonder if the necropolis didn't have a much earlier use than just being a Roman burial ground. They are hoping that with further excavations, they'll be able to connect the necropolis to the oldest temple in the world. Number 5. A prehistoric whodunit. For a long time, scientists have generally agreed that only members of the Homo genus ever evolved to use complicated tools. However, archaeologists recently discovered stone tools dating back roughly 3 million years, potentially proving that a completely different species was behind the invention of stone technology. If this is true, it could change everything we know about our ancestors. The artifacts were found at a site in Kenya. where prehistoric humans used stone tools for butchering animals and mashing plant material. This collection of tools is now known as the Oldowan Toolkit. Scientists consider it a milestone in human evolution because it was the first time anyone had a standardized kit of instruments. There were specific rocks used for processing plants, and another set of specific rocks for processing animal meat and fur. Recently, excavations revealed some molars belonging to a hominin called Paranthropus. The molars were found alongside the Oldowan Toolkit, thought to have originally been invented by one of our Homo genus ancestors. Professor Rick Potts from the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History said the discovery is a fascinating whodunit. The site in Kenya where the toolkit and the teeth were found also revealed the oldest known evidence of hominins eating large animals. Researchers found 3 butchered hippopotamuses, which means humanoids have been hunting big game for at least 3 million years. Our ancestors and other hominin creatures like the Paranthropus could have been responsible for a lot more species going extinct than previously thought. Number 4. The Nessglyph. Archaeologists are so baffled by the Nessglyph Riddle that they have reached out to the public for help. The glyph is nothing but a seemingly innocent rock carving that can be found on a piece of red sandstone at the Nessglyph Hill Fort. The fortification is located in England, and it was built during the Iron Age around 500 BC. The glyph was carved in a rough circular shape with a horned figure in the center holding something in its grip. The image is extremely strange, representing some kind of malevolent creature. Sadly, there's been a significant amount of damage to the glyph, so archaeologists are having a difficult time trying to decipher it. For this reason, they have reached out to the public to see if anyone can remember seeing such a strange picture anywhere else before. If you have any ideas, let them know. The hill fort itself was originally occupied by an unknown tribe, but it was taken over in the 2nd century AD when the Romans conquered the area. Although we don't know what the glyph represents, some archaeologists have an idea. Paul Reilly from the University of Southampton speculated that the Nessglyph is figurative, representing a deity with 2 small horns and a skinny body. He believes the image could have been left by an ancient cult that worshipped a mysterious horned god. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Number 3. The Holloways. The English countryside is riddled with mysterious secrets and sunken labyrinths. For years, people have been stumbling upon old paths and creepy passageways sunken into the ground. These semi-subterranean tunnels are called holloways, and nobody's really sure what they were used for. They look like roads that were dug thousands of years ago across the landscape. They were created in such a way so that people could move through them without being seen from above. They were almost like trenches, but extremely long, and some of them reach depths of up to 20 feet deep. Researchers can't figure out if the holloways were crafted this way on purpose, or if they were originally above-ground paths that sank after repeated use. The holloways in England have been dated from between 300 to 3,000 years old. Geologists say the tunnel-like highways formed naturally by the movement of people, animals, and merchant carts that traveled along a specific route. Over time, the ground became loose and started to sink, and eventually tunnels began to form. At least that's what geologists say, but not everyone is buying their explanation. Many of the holloways are found adorned with graffiti, and some of them even have strange images carved into their walls, like weird Celtic patterns and gargoyles. The enigmatic images suggest a much more mystical purpose to the tunnels. If we ever do find out the truth behind the holloways, it could change the history of ancient Britain as we know it. Number 2. Nagt Paten. Nagt Paten was the very first commuter in history. The discovery of his tomb and his house changed how scientists understand ancient Egypt. The thing about commuting is that it's been happening for at least 3,300 years. Nagt Paten used to walk from his home all the way to his job as the vizier for the pharaoh. But let's start at the beginning. Nagt Paten was an ancient Egyptian vizier during the rule of Pharaoh Akhenaten in the 18th dynasty. He lived between roughly 1353 and 1336 BC. Archaeologists know so much about him because they discovered his tomb and his luxurious estate. Leonard Woolley published extensive details of his life in 1922 after meticulous inspection of his ancient mansion. Akhenaten lived in an extravagant house with whitewashed walls, a large hall with circular pillars along its flanks, and a massive sitting area for having company over. It was truly a really nice place to live. But what we're here to talk about is the commute, walking to work just like an Egyptian. We know that Akhenaten must have walked from his mansion through rush hour to the palace or wherever he worked. Even being one of the most important men in Egyptian society didn't spare him the grueling morning commute. Since he wanted to live in a luxury villa at the edge of the city, Akhenaten had to get up every day and use his own 2 legs to get to his job. Number 1. The handprint. Archaeologists in Jerusalem were recently investigating the remains of a dry moat that surrounded the city 1,000 years ago. The ancient moat was part of the old city's defense system. If attackers wished to breach Jerusalem's walls, they had to first find a way through a giant pit surrounding the city. But it's not the moat we're here to talk about, it's what the researchers found inside of it. Archaeologists spotted the imprint of a human hand in the moat. The handprint is as clear as day, pressed firmly into the inside of the man-made ditch. The thing that's baffling scientists is that they don't know who left the handprint there. It could be a secret symbol purposely imprinted inside the moat. It may even be a local prank that somebody pulled on archaeologists. Then again, this could be the handprint of a crusader who got stuck in the moat during a siege 1,000 years ago. Zubair Adawi with the Israel Antiquities Authority says the hand is a mystery that he and his colleagues are currently trying to solve. According to him, it could lead to important clues about Jerusalem's history during the Crusades. Thanks for watching! Which of these shocking discoveries surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and come back soon. Bye!